All right. Good morning. Good morning, GMDM. Folks, welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Folks, it is snowing here in Chicago. It's another cold, gray day as winter drags on. Crypto markets feeling a little cold and gray, at least in the trenches, but there are some signs of life. We're going to break it all down on today's show. I'm excited to get into it with you. Farouk is out today. He is gallivanting around Paris, but we've got Mando on with us still. Mando, GM, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just another day of our crypto majors trading as stable coins, but nice to see some green candles out there on the AI board. I'm excited to get into that with you and see if maybe the bottom is in. Folks, I think we're just going to dive right into it. Probably a tighter show here today. What are we talking about? We're going to start with the market report, some ongoing chop. We've got more ETFs coming. We've got states continuing to pile into these strategic reserve bills. We've got breaking news this morning, Unichain from Uniswap, that is live. We're going to talk about Dave Portnoy's continued roller coaster of pump and dumps and the jail stool token. Story Protocol announcing their TGE social airdrops tied to Kaido, and they keep rolling in. Then we're going to get into AI, the leaders seeing mega rebounds. Is this one for real or just a head fake? And then perhaps a couple NFT headlines before we close things out. Before we get it, a few shout outs to our sponsors. For one, Galaxis is a Web3 platform empowering creators and brands to build unstoppable communities with full ownership and independence, trusted by icons like Donald Trump, Steve Aoki, Mike Tyson, and the NBA, shaping together the future of engagement. And every day we see people's wallets get drained. Fairside is about to launch the fair alternative to insurance for crypto scams. Check out at Fairside Network on X. If you get drained, you won't be wrecked. All right. We love our partners. Shout out to them as always. Mando, if you're ready, let's get into it.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
GM, everyone, how are you all doing? Feels as though we are slightly greener on the day. Bitcoin hanging out at 90. Well, actually, I guess it's slightly lower, actually. 97K, but a lot of the trenches stuff that I think we come up with a lot, that's higher. Memes and AI coins have definitely had a bit of a bounce. Looks like majors are kind of unchanged. The biggest piece of news today on macro is that Jerome Powell is giving some form of testimony to the House and probably will be questioned on his plans for policy. I'm seeing some light headlines around that already. So it does feel as though we're going to see, Powell reiterates no need to hurry to adjust rates. So he seems like he's being relatively hawkish. Or at least he's being more data dependent. I don't really know how the market's going to take that, but it does feel as though you're going to see a lot of headlines around that for the next 2 days. He's there for a while. As I kind of said already, it does feel as though we've seen a bit of a drop in Bitcoin dominance back down to kind of 61% area. And that's meant that a lot of these beaten up coins have really rallied. So coins like AI16Z have gone from a low of around 300 million to now around 600 million. ARK from a low of around 150 to 320 today. And then a bunch of other movers kind of in the AI space, less aggressive, but bounces in things like Fartcoin, Graphane, kind of a range of them right now. So we have the AI agent market cap back up to around 8 billion, which is nice. It's kind of some of the leaders are kind of back to where they were at the start of the year. So like ARK was around 300 million at the start of the year. And it's back there now. I think Farcoin AI16Z is definitely lower, but there's a few of those where they've kind of recovered slightly here. We've seen a bounce in again some of the revenue generating protocols. So Hype, Ray, Jupiter all had decent days. They've given back a little bit in the last hour or so, but those continue to be like one of the things I think people jump at first whenever there's some strength back in majors. So we'll see how that one develops. In terms of like institutional adoption sort of news, the only real one here is that that Bloomberg came out yesterday and said that basically we're going to get a Litecoin, XRP, Doge, Solana ETF, all likely to get approved in their view. They put like a 90% probability on some of these approvals. So they're very, very confident we're going to get a range of different altcoin ETFs, and they could be relatively soon. So in that world, you've had strength in a few of these different alts. It looks like Grayscale actually applied for an ADA ETF too. So Cardano was one of the best performers yesterday. But yeah, I think people are getting a little bit more bullish on the idea that we could get some nearer term approval, some of the major ETFs. We did have, again, Solana continues to kind of dominate in terms of revenue versus ETH gas fees plummeting to like a 5-year low. And there's a lot of debate on the timeline about how L2s should be acting in this world. Kind of fights between Arbitrum and Base and Mega ETH and all these guys all having commentary on the role of L2s here, which is going to be an interesting one. Vitalik kind of came out and said, they should align themselves with ETH a little bit more, but there's no incentive or contract for that to happen. So there's a little bit of a schism, let's say, at the heart of ETH right now, which continues to kind of fester, and there's a lot of fighting going on the timeline. But yeah, we'll see how that one resolves. ETH actually was probably the best performing major over the last 24 hours, it looks like. In terms of macro news, stocks have kind of been okay. They bounced back yesterday. The Nasdaq is still below 20K, and it looks like today we're a little bit lower, just because of Powell's comments, but nothing crazy. You did have Elon attempting to potentially buy OpenAI yesterday, which Sam Altman came out and said no thank you. Sam Altman, I don't know if he can actually say no thank you in that scenario. He's not like the shareholder or the controlling shareholders. I don't really know if he's the person that can even say no thank you, but basically there was a bid by Elon and a consortium for $100 billion for OpenAI. Obviously, Elon's been in a fight with them about their move to being a for-profit, and I would imagine there's some sort of understanding there that if you accept this bid, I'll drop the lawsuit. If you don't, I'm going to continue to be very, very aggressive in trying to stop OpenAI moving towards being a for-profit, which I'm sure a lot of people are kind of annoyed about. I think that was kind of it in terms of macro. Meta stock is on this 16-day winning streak, one of the longest winning streaks on a stock, and the biggest for over like 30 years right now. So it's been very interesting. And at the same time, Tesla's sinking. So this Meta versus Tesla thing's going on. In left curve stuff, I'm sure, Tyler, you can get to it, but it felt like yesterday was just dominated by Dave Portnoy, and I think a lot of people are getting a little bit tired. But there was obviously that stuff about Kaito, which you said, which is gaining a little bit of traction, I guess, with the yappers. And it feels as though, like I said, AI has been the main winners.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. That's a nice roundup there of the headlines. It just jumped out to me. Looking at the Sam Altman rebuttal from Elon. If folks didn't realize this, Elon changed his handle on X to Hairy Balls, which also sent the left curve market into a flurry of several tokens launching. I think I saw one get to 20 million or so. Just this is the guy who's leading the Department of Government Efficiency and auditing the entire United States federal government, and then just changing his handle to Hairy Balls right in the middle of all of it. So that was a little comedic. Maybe we zoom out for a second. I want to get into some of the more detailed headlines, but just kind of curious. We've been talking macro, a little bit more just kind of just the ongoing chop. I saw KBM say he's short. He's conservatively short right now.
Oh, KBM short, is he?
On majors, yes. Said he's not in size that he's going to get blown out by any Loomis tweet. But then on the flip side, so we've got Bob, one of my more favorite macro TA guys, and he's laying out what a Bitcoin 4-year cycle could look like if it follows historical trends. Again, I think we've talked about on this show, we're not necessarily those who align with the 4-year cycle trend at this point, and Bob doesn't really either, but several folks, huge cohorts of this market still do seem to kind of live and die by the 4-year cycle. So I thought it was interesting enough to perhaps just pull it up if folks didn't see this. So basically his view is we're just kind of starting to get into this new weekly cycle. He sees Bitcoin marching up to about 150K if it follows previous cycles by May, cool off in the summer, and then a march over 200 by Q4. So a little bit of bull hopium for folks here on a cloudy gray Tuesday.
I could easily see that. Yeah. I think that the thing that gets us out of this range is talk about the Bitcoin reserve actually coming into fruition. And I think that's probably 6 months from when he got inaugurated. So probably like June, July time. Mm-hmm. We could start to see that. You may see a Solana ETF approved before that, or some altcoin ETF approved before that. Feels as though various different ETF issuers seem fairly bullish on that, and you could see some resolution and on all these ongoing court cases between the SEC and exchanges, which I think would be relatively bullish, but nothing crazy. But the thing that gets us out of this range is that, and normally you hear basically very strong rumors about it like a month beforehand, like we had with the ETF, right? So my guess is that we start to rally into that, and that probably takes us to a similar sort of timeline, like May, June. I can imagine is when we break out of this. So until then, I think it's a bit of chop suey. In this sideways Bitcoin, this has been one of the strangest situations right now. Is that normally when Bitcoin's going sideways, normally people are gambling on altcoins, and they're betting, and you're starting to see. We had a huge meme coin run in a period where Bitcoin went sideways last year. We had huge moves in, and similarly now we have AI coins and meme coins, and that hasn't happened. In fact, they're all down a lot. So I continue to kind of like some of these stories here. Maybe I'm like a broken record in saying that I think some of these are due a decent bounce. Like I did go more defensive in some of these revenue producing protocols. But if it does feel as though some of this stuff, particularly the utility AI coins, are bouncing quite strongly. The FARC coins plus AI16Z seem to have been the strongest ones. You mentioned even BBB yesterday. It's done like a 3x from that low. I can't imagine people are just going to sit around and do nothing for 4 months.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to be very cautious because I tried to call bottom here on the AI cycle, and we saw a little rebound, and then everything fell another 50%. Is the forever bottom in? I don't know. Like if we see a macro turn down, if Bitcoin goes back to 92 or 88K, we're probably going to revisit the lows on a lot of these. But it does start to look like the leaders are catching bids again, which is nice to see. And a lot of them are showing this chart, which again, it's hard to. We've seen recoveries 3 or 4 times now on the way down, so it is hard to get hyper bulled up. But Farcoin up 50% off the bottom. I think ARK is arguably the most impressive of all of these, mostly because you led the show with it. It's kind of back to where it was to start the year. So it's not down 80% from high. It's really
Arc,
about 40.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we've said this before, but AI16Z and Arc are very similar projects. They are very similar projects, except just one of them is on Rust, and yet AI16Z got decimated, and Arc is kind of I think that probably shows you how much like the vibes affected that project, whereas Arc has managed to like keep the vibes relatively healthy and has kind of gone back to, basically. I mean, I think when this stuff really started moving was like the 30th of December, and ARK was at 250 then, so it's actually up versus like when everything else started moving. That was when AI16Z I think changed its tokenomics, right? It was like the 30th of December, and that's when like everything started gapping, or maybe the last week of December. AI16Z is down about 30% still from or 40% since the 30th of December, and Fartcoin looks it was at 950 and now it's at 620. So assuming that those are like the three big ones, at least on Sol, that's a decent move. Like we're kind of within range that you couldn't have been that wrecked unless you called it late. Virtuals it really did kind of peak on the 30, or it peaked on the 3rd of January actually at 5 billion there. That's the one that's really been hurt, and obviously that's now moved to Sol yesterday. What do you make of that now? Like, do you think every major base coin seemingly has kind of moved to Solana, right?
They have, which I think has weakened the case for virtuals. We've shared the virtuals dashboards before. I don't need to share them again. Just the number of daily launches have effectively gone to zero.
Yeah.
That was a big part of the run to $5. People were looking at the revenue it was generating, and then now it kind of stopped generating revenue. I think the team is still well positioned as a leader in this new crypto AI sector. But it's almost like one where you kind of have to separate perhaps the team from the token here. And like objectively, it's just not bouncing back as strongly as the others. I think we can see that pretty clearly in the chart. And I think the move to Solana kind of weakens it, right? Because part of their differentiator was that they were on ETH and base. And
it's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
Now that they're on Solana, they're playing in a more competitive playing field.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you move to Sol and the liquidity is there, but it's a fickle beast. You can come to Solana and you might see more people buying stuff, but it feels as though you can get outcompeted by some of the other Solana coins now quite quickly. I guess the other main competitors would be like Top Hat and Vaifu and all those other ones. So maybe it does make it a little bit more difficult. It does feel as though like the virtuals team, from people who are in the space, they're very highly respected. So maybe they have a few things up their sleeve. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they were meeting with the AI, the Twitter AI team at Twitter HQ. I mean, that meeting alone feels pretty big, right? I don't think a whole lot of teams would be able to land that. So I think there's reasons to still be optimistic. Another thing that's jumping out to me, and I wonder when we will see folks start to capitulate back in. I don't think we're there yet. But ARK is up, or AI16Z is up over 100% off the bottom now. ARK is up 100% off the bottom also. And you just look at this candle. There's folks who are like, okay, I'm fine missing the first 10 to 20% move off the bottom. I want to make sure that the reversal is there. If you miss these up days, like you miss a lot. Like this thing's up 50% today. It's up since the week started. Yeah, it's up 90%.
Yeah, look, I think that's kind of it. It's just like one of these days. That's Solana for you. Like you miss these days, you are having to buy some pretty crazy candles when stuff gets moving. I don't think this sector's going anywhere. I think maybe the, you know, where it was a month ago, where it was like, this is going to dominate all sectors. I still think this is going to be the strongest sector of 2025. But it's clear that like it's become, particularly with the utility coins, a little bit more like people have got to they've maybe got to show a little bit more utility than they kind of had before, just because there was so much supply of them and so many different people coming in. So yeah, I don't think it'll be as parabolic, let's say, the bounce back this time. I think you'll get a chance to buy these coins again, is basically what I'm saying. That's my gut.
I think that's fair. Yeah. And ARK is a little bit different. I kind of want to put it aside because it didn't move in line with some of the others. But like if we pull up the AI16Z chart, it's hard to see this. It's going to V-shape back to $2.40.
Yeah, that seems like a very difficult one. Can we go through, just to change topic slightly here? Kaito, can you just top down explain to everyone why all these guys are obsessed with Kaito and why we should all be paying attention to it? Because I am not. And yeah, like I know, you know, all the people that were in AI have now like moved to Kaito, and there's clearly gonna be some sort of, all the airdrop farming guys are on Kaito, and I just don't even know what I'm meant to be doing here. Kaito, obviously, I've used as a platform. I have a monthly subscription to it, but I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so I think for starters, the reason that Kaito kind of caught fire and started getting attention on crypto Twitter were for these new attention mindshare heat maps that they developed. It's on their platform. You can see just big, bright green squares, red squares for those who are gaining mindshare, those who are losing mindshare. What was perhaps, you know, a little different, and what made them the next iteration of, you know, attention measuring was that they were beyond just influencers. So there's an influencer component. There is a protocol component. So you can see here, you know, how Kaito compares to OpenSea, compares to Pump Fund, and they also have tokens. So you can see how different tokens can compare with each other in different categories. So I think this was really the first time that we have seen those three buckets kind of bubble up in such an easy to comprehend manner. And like looking at their dashboards, they are incredibly clean. It is very easy to just quickly look at this and understand. So like I'm looking at different leaderboards. I can see the AI agent leaderboard. I can see crypto and AI, or just broader CT. And then from there, you've got individual projects. So you can dive in and see, okay, who's talking the most about Mega ETH? And they're going to have their own rankings for that. The reason this has started to matter, there's a handful. But one, now projects are starting to reward their top yappers specifically. So Barachain came out. They had a social airdrop component as a part of their airdrop campaign. Anyone who was talking about Bara received somewhere between 600 or 700 tokens. It's $3,500. A pretty significant airdrop there. Anime coin from the Azuki team, they just rolled out their social airdrop yesterday. The top folks who were talking about anime received some tokens. I saw folks get $500 to $1,000. We had folks who were able to monetize selling their votes. That's kind of went by the wayside. So I wouldn't really focus about that. And then there's just folks who are in general trying to farm yaps because they are bullish on Kaito doing their own token drop down the line.
Okay.
And they're giving out 25,000 yaps per day. So you can do some back of the napkin math on what you think the total number of yaps will be if they do a 3-month campaign, how that might convert to a token if they give out 10%, 20%, that type of thing. So that's where you've seen the back of the napkin math. We've seen folks calling for $100 a yap. I think that's kind of out to lunch.
Right.
But single digit dollar per yap, couple dollars per yap, I think very realistic. Perhaps as high as like in the 5 to 10 range. I don't want to hold my breath. But that's why people have been farming it. And the reason, like, so we've had Brett on the show. The reason that projects care is it gives you the social graph of who is talking about your product the most.
Right.
Those are the people you can reward. Those are the people you can lean into. And it's also a carrot for you to say, hey, if you get to the top 20, the top 100, we will reward you as well. So it's just it's an easier way to kind of connect and reward the folks who you're spokesperson.
Haven't other projects done this before though? Like I know like Luna Crush had a version of this where it's like you were like the top influencer for a certain project. I've seen that before. And so did Cookie. They've had something similar, right? Where they have like your top influencers for a project. Why is this one now like the one? Is it just because people are using this more than like, do you think this is going to be like, they're going to have the monopoly on airdrops because of that?
I think it's just their reach and their popularity.
Right.
And the fact that the folks who are largely at the top of their leaderboard are also talking about it all the time. So like folks like ICO, Bread, Wally, these guys, not only are they at the top of the leaderboard, they're also talking about Kaido. So it's kind of
yeah, that's the thing I don't really get, because some of these guys I see at the top, I'm like, I don't know if I've even heard of you, but maybe that's just me, or is it like you have to get to the top of the Yap leaderboard, you kind of have to be talking about them as well? Like why? I know Peter, for example, Peter Pan. He works with I know him like locally, but he's like 15th on this, and I'm like, I wouldn't have put him 15th, for example. So like, how can people game this? Like, you just have to talk as much about Kaito as possible.
Well, I think when you zoom out, so like this is the 6-month rankings. I think this is a pretty accurate list of who you think would be some of the top most shared folks in CT. You got AXBT is new, but Mert, Vitalik, Ansem, Jesse from Base, Murad, Brian Armstrong, like that feels like the right top 8 to me, rough in some order, just from the reach that I've seen on X. Now, where it changes is if you zoom in and like, okay, like Wally was number 2 on, like ICO was number 4 in the past week or so.
Right.
And the way folks are gaming it to effectively, hey, you just talk a lot. There's a little bit of like reply, kind of similar to like FinTech 3.3, all that. It's just sharing relevant content on a variety of different crypto Twitter topics. So basically it's like keyword. So like,
yeah,
you're talking about crypto AI, you've got the crypto AI words there. If you're talking about tickers and you've got the tickers in your posts, it's all that. There's a little bit of a game to it, and some people just aren't playing the game, and they're not going to score as well.
Right. No, I'm just trying to judge this versus the other one, Fantasy Top. Like I felt like the Fantasy Top leaderboards, I kind of felt like that I understood that leaderboard a lot better than this one. So I'm just trying to work out how to.
They're different. I think Fantasy Top is pure. How many impressions are you getting per follower count effectively? So if you and I got the same number of impressions, I'm going to be ahead of you because you've got more followers than me.
Right.
Whereas Kaido is more, they've got a secret sauce algo, and it depends on which topics you're talking about. Video's not rewarded, and I think retweets aren't counting as much. So there's a little bit of nuance to it.
Wow, so video's not rewarded.
It has not been. I think they're trying to figure out how to change that, but that makes sense because they do like keyword text scraping. So how are they going to scrape a video?
No, I just thought for like engagement, they might scrape a video.
And that's why folks like Clemente have been like wrecked by this, because Clemente gets all his engagement via these videos. Just aren't getting picked up by this at all.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So if you want to make money on this, is it too late? Or what about the NFTs? Why do those just keep on going higher?
The NFTs are tied to the airdrop. So I think folks think that they will have, oh my God, they're 80th now. Wow. So this is arguably one of the best performing NFTs of 2025. Folks think they're going to get a block of tokens for this. They also just got rewarded with a block of votes. So if monetizing votes becomes a thing again, folks who own these NFTs might be able to get that. I think as a call to action, the reality is if you want to grow your X account, like you should be kind of doing this already. You should pick niches and try to become like a thought leader in that and share content around it. And now Kaido is just bucketing that and making it easier for folks to discover you. So I would just say, just start creating content, find a project or a sector that you like and care about, just grind it. And then if you really want to play the game, you can get into the reply stuff, but that's a little bit less interesting to me. I don't think that has legs. But that would be my advice.
Oh, so what this really now means is that for any new airdrop, people are going to be talking about it just an unbelievable amount.
Correct. I think there was also some negative feedback about the anime leaderboard, that it was folks who didn't really care about anime. Like they were clearly just grinding anime content for yaps.
This kind of feels like a moment where I say I'm tired. Like, you know, like my timeline's going to be full of like, you should buy anime coin. Anime coin's going to be the next big thing. Anime coin drops 90% and some people get like 2K worth of anime coin for it. My timeline's going to be trash if this continues. Every single airdrop's going to be hyped to oblivion.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that's a fair reaction. At the same time, I haven't seen my timeline get totally destroyed with people.
Yeah, now they've incentivized people.
You're right. So now the bear chain and the anime, perhaps that has changed a little bit. But
what are the new airdrops meant to be yapping about, Tyler?
It's a good question.
Mega ETH
for sure.
Oh my goodness, I'm a Mega ETH influencer. I'm moving on from Radium. I am now the #1 Mega ETH influencer across all geographies.
Okay. Yeah. Looks like
you broke it.
I broke Kaido here for a second, but yeah, Mega ETH's gonna be a big one. On that note, so Mega ETH did start there. Let's get my yaps in. Mega ETH, their day one mint for guaranteed starts today. First come, first serve is tomorrow. It's going to be RNG. It doesn't look like they shared who won. So folks are going to have to look out for that and perhaps just be ready to mint tomorrow. But there's going to be a lot of demand for those. So go check that out. We had Bread Guy on the show last week. If folks missed that, maybe catch the replay there.
Maybe time for a thread. You know what I mean?
Look out for my thread later on Mega ETH and everything that you need to know with a lot of hashes.
Kill me now.
And tickers. I think we went around the horn of Kaido pretty well. Let's talk about the Portnoy stuff here. I think people are still interested in that. I don't know how much longer we'll be talking about it.
Yeah.
We talked about the price action yesterday because this was all kind of breaking during the show. He did his space or his David Day Trader show and basically called all of crypto Twitter mutants. And he was dunking on Nick, Choose Rich Nick. And then he said that he might still do his own coin. Market did not like that. It sold from 100 million to about 30 and then kind of chopped, rebounded, got back up to 50, 60, partially because he just keeps day trading and kind of running pump and dumps. If I'm just, being objective in what they are. So it started with this Fartnoy coin. He bought, I forget the exact numbers, a huge chunk of it at a very low market cap, tweeted about it. The token ended up running to like 20 or 30 million. I was pretty shocked. Actually, let's pull up the Fartnoy chart at how many people were still copy trading him after we knew his MO here. So yeah, so this thing, he bought it around here. He tweeted about it like right here. And then it ended up going to, it was at 15 million for a decent chunk of time. It looks like it peaked over 20 or so. And then unsurprisingly, kind of just sped run to zero there. Stats put out a tweet kind of summarizing what he's been doing. But yesterday, it looks like Portnoy he realized $550,000 of profit by effectively pump dumping Fartnoy, Fartstool, Peach, and Rug Stool.
So has he? That's what I didn't understand. He did sell some. He sold jail. Oh no, sorry. There's a different one. Fart stool, peach, and rug stool. Okay.
Yeah. So
this is a weird thing. Okay. Everyone, I think, knows. So this is almost just like going down to the casino, and it's just a game of like, when is he going to sell? And hopefully, I get out before he sells. Like he recognizes that he is just like a casino at this stage of a crash game.
Yeah.
Right. It's a crash game with Dave Portnoy, who decides when the crash is going to happen. And I think everyone's okay with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, he's pumping and dumping. He knows he's pumping and dumping. Everyone else knows he's pumping and dumping, and everyone's playing the game. So, like, I'm just kind of sitting here looking at it and going, like, look, if you want to play the game, and it's, which token is Dave going to buy today in the crash game, maybe they can. It's kind of sad because it's weird because people talk about meme coins and they talk about, like, we had something real going on. Like, it does feel as though we've now just completely gone down to just the bare bones of crash games. But people want to play those games, right? The daily runner. You can't hold a coin for more than an hour. Well, Dave Portnoy is going to do his daily crash game. So I think this can continue. If he wants to continue it, I think it can continue. Genuinely, like, people just be like, okay, well, we're going to play it with him again today. And maybe the game gets a little bit more boring with time, but maybe it doesn't, and maybe it just keeps on selling them all and buying. Maybe Jailstool becomes the casino token of Dave Portnoy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's the lone remaining bull case for it, actually, because he kind of said he was gonna be rotating the profits back to Jailstool. I don't know that he's rotated all these profits back. I think Stats has that in the post. I'd have to look into it. I think you're dead on that. This is kind of just stripped away some of the, like, I'm blanking on the right word, but the imagery that we had around this space about, like, people believing in something and communities forming. And he's like, no, this is just pure rocket game. And huge swaths of the market. So, like, yeah, we're going to play rocket game with you, Dave.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing. I was shocked at this yesterday. So, like, the first few coins he did, he would tweet about it and then sell within like 1 or 2 minutes. So he's mixed up his style. So he bought this one, he tweeted it, and then he bought more. And then he held on to it a little bit longer. So he's changing the game. He's changing
it up. It's a different game today. Like, you might hold it for a minute. He might.
I think he knows what he's doing. Like, there's one read that he's not thinking about this, and he's just flying by the seat of his pants. There's another read that, like, he does know what he's doing.
Oh, look, anyone with like 5 brain cells knows what they're doing here. Oh, I bought the coin, it's up. Like, for this actually to be, in my opinion, like, not immoral, he has to understand what he's doing. Like, he has to understand that, like, he hasn't just got an infinite money glitch. He's just opened up a casino of a crash game of which he is the game master. And that game may stop after a week. People might get bored and move on to a new game, but, like, that's the game that he's set up. I don't know if it's necessarily immoral if he's just doing that and he's saying this is the game, and I'll be buying this casino token with the profits. But if he honestly thinks he is trading, then yeah, that's just like, you have to have less than 5 brain cells.
I went through, like, the full cycle of emotional responses to what he was doing. Early on, I thought it was perhaps a little bit more immoral, but now I'm kind of with you that, like, this is the game.
Yeah.
Maybe the first or second time you didn't know what the rules of the game were. Now we know the rules of the game. So, like, if you're playing, like, you're playing the slot machine, you were playing the rocket game, and you're going to try to get out. What shocked me yesterday was I saw this. I didn't buy in. I was just watching it. When he first bought in, this thing had about 1,000 holders, and then it shot to 20,000 holders in about 15 to 30 minutes. So it's not like a couple of people are playing the game. 20,000 people are playing the rocket game.
Yeah,
along with Dave.
I feel like the move may be that every time he buys another coin, you're meant to buy Jailstool, right? Because then it's not the rocket game. Like, he's going to buy that one in the future at some stage. So
that was part of the game theory yesterday, but now
there's not much volatility there, really, is there? So maybe people are just getting bored with it.
I think people are starting to get a little bored with it, and it's just not, his buys just aren't pumping it enough for whatever reason.
Kind of reminds me of, like, Wolf Game. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you want to own a wolf or do you want to own a sheep? and like the sheep are fun as the game continues, and maybe they can go up. And then like everyone's like, oh, the wolf is making this much yield every single day, and then one day everyone just stops playing wolf game. So yeah, I don't know, but that's what I guess. I think this can continue for like a few more days, weeks, like whenever the game gets boring, we move on.
Yeah, it's aided by the fact that a lot of the like trenches influencers are telling their followers that we are in an aggressive rotator market. That you shouldn't hold anything for more than a few hours.
I love that tweet from Razmir yesterday. This is why I say not to hold coins long term. Like the coin had lasted for like 12 hours.
And like rightfully or wrongfully,
I liked it.
If that's what this market is, then why not just go play Rocket Game with Dave?
Yeah, right.
It's the exact same thing, but at least you know it's Dave running the show and not the cabal, behind half of these tokens at this point, and perhaps a little bit more. You can just try to get a read on what he might be doing. So I don't know. That's the state of the trenches right now. We will we'll certainly see how long it lasts. I think that's most of the stories from yesterday. Just a quick roundup of a few others. So this Story protocol, they're going to do their IP token, TGE. That's coming on Thursday. Notably, this IP token on Bybit pre-market. So Bybit is one of their listing partners. It was trading at 375 this morning, which I believe equates to 3.75 billion FDB.
I mean, we're not going to play the FDV game with Story Protocol. This thing has done like 10 different funding rounds, and let's see where the chips lie a week after launch.
Let's see where the chip lies. We'll see if they reward any of their Kaido yappers as well.
Time for a thread.
No, we are going to roast them to the ground. On crypto Twitter. This is your warning, protocols. Give us the tokens or else.
Oh my goodness.
I
don't know if I can deal with. I don't think I can deal with 5 months of people telling me that Kaito is the next big thing, and then threads about different airdrops as we just go sideways. And then when the airdrop comes out, it drops 90%, and we move on to the next one.
Yeah, we're starting to see that setup. Let's hope it doesn't last like that. The other story, we talked about AI, but Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, endorsed the Y&E project yesterday. So if folks aren't familiar, Y&E, Matt Schlitt is the founder behind that. It's an AI agent that's auditing all scientific research, and they have this Y&E token component as well. And Reid commenting that he thinks this is a great use case of not only an AI agent, but the token to provide a tangible public good. So I thought that was an interesting one. And it just does highlight, that serious people are paying attention to this right now.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I mean, Reid Hoffman is I would say he's like less in vogue right now because obviously he's like way more Democrat and various stories about him. But but yeah, it's interesting to see that like maybe crypto is becoming a bit more accepted from the Silicon Valley elite. Maybe I would not have expected him to be looking at this project.
Yeah. So we saw a nice pump. I need to dive into this myself. I'm not exactly clear like where the token comes in and like why.
Let me start you right there. It's time for a thread.
Here's why Reid Hoffman endorsing the Y&E matters. So off the bottom it was 24, so it did about 2x off the bottom. It sold off a little bit, not a huge surprise. It's kind of similar to like an ARC chart. It ran a little bit later than some of the others. The exact same pullback. Now we'll see if it's able to.
Is this AI though? It felt a bit more DeSci as a coin, right?
Oh, it is DeSci. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's a DeSci AI agent. That's what it is. It's meant to like reward people for like getting better scientific papers. But like I said, doesn't really matter at this stage.
We don't really talk about DeSci after the mosquito experiments.
What happened to those coins, like the biggest DeSci coins?
Let's. I think I sold my watch list. Let's.
Oh, you still have a watch list for them. Top DeSci.
So RSC was a real one. I think that's the one tied to like the Coinbase back.
RSC is the one that I felt like was legit.
All right.
What was one that was like named after a drug?
Yeah. So
Euro.
and Eurolithin. Those were the two ones.
Yeah, Jesus.
Right. This one went to like 200 million. Yeah.
That was not a pretty lot.
It's down to 7.
Wow. Yeah, those are some nasty wigs.
I'll pat myself on the back. As soon as the mosquitoes died, I sold these tokens, and it was it was my best trade of the year. Yeah, so Euro hit 100 million. I mean,
that was peak. That was peak LARPing. I felt like when these coins started coming out.
These were a little bit more LARP, which I think did actually hurt perhaps some of the more real DeSci tokens out there. Like Research Coin, right? Like that's more of a realistic. Like that's
I think this coin is similar to this YNE coin in that it like rewards for better scientific research. I think it's like peer review. It rewards people for peer review. I'm pretty sure that's how it's built, right? Because there's like an issue about peer review and the fact that like no one does it, so it's meant to be a coin which like makes people do peer review better. It's probably interesting. I don't know if it's like worth. Wow, it's worth 400. Wow, that seems high to me for what it is. But like, yeah, I guess 500 million. I don't even know why I'm trying to make sense of that, but yeah. That one does have some legit aims for it in that it's meant to improve scientific research by giving various different people that would peer review a paper like incentivized. Maybe that moves to AI. Like maybe AI peer review is kind of where we're going. Actually, it does feel like.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you used deep research at all yet, Mando?
What is deep research? Sorry.
Deep research is the new agent from OpenAI that is meant to be like your college level research analyst who will give you a full like 5-page research report on your topic of choice.
I haven't, but I've heard a lot about it. Because I've heard a lot of people doing it, associating it with medical stuff. So like people who have what was it? I was listening to somebody who was talking about how maybe his wife had cancer, and they'd uploaded all her data, and they'd like asked it, should she be doing radiotherapy after chemo, and it presented a 5-page report on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty unique. That's pretty cool. Like it does seem to me that even if you prefer, which I think most people would agree with at this stage, like that you're speaking to a doctor about your medical advice, like just to have, there's no doubt in my mind that those doctors are not reading like papers every single night. So it feels like they're not finishing their shift and then going home and reading 12 hours worth of research papers. So having someone like this makes you, I think, a bit more informed about those questions. And I think often, I think the main question when it comes to medical stuff is often like probabilities. Like, what is the chance that I'll get this? Mm-hmm. And I actually think that often doctors don't do great about that. Whereas I think some of these people will be able to come up with better like probabilities or probability weighted kind of estimates of different things you should do.
They'll have their role 100%, and they're just going to get better. So I asked it to a handful of crypto questions. One, I asked it to compare and contrast Ethereum and Solana's Q4 and present an investment thesis. Overall, I was pretty impressed with the level of analysis it did, as well as the recent news and information it was able to bubble up. But what I will say is you can't trust everything it says. So like it said that Ethereum is likely to get an ETF in 2025, but doesn't have one yet. So like it missed like a big rock question. The other one I asked it was to summarize the current state of the crypto AI sector. And it actually did it nailed the use cases. It nailed most of the leaders. So it feels like it's got a better handle. And this was out, so I didn't have to feed it any sources. So it's just sourcing from the open web. So I think that's one of the step level improvements here. But again, you can't give it 100% trust, but it's making a lot of progress.
Yeah, I've actually been very impressed around OpenAI just asking it questions about crypto recently. I've asked it a number of questions about crypto, relevant like stuff right now, being like, oh, like which coins do you think are interesting? Like why? Like which? And it's kind of up to date. So I found it better than Grok. Grok I tend to find gives me like some random tweet with like a lot of engagement that often is like either been bot farmed or is either conspiracy theory or like I haven't found Grok that useful compared to OpenAI.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. For better or worse, like I don't use Grok. It's just not in my like daily process. Yeah. I haven't really interacted with it too much.
It's mainly using Twitter as it like a lot of its data, which right? So like it can get some really like if you think OpenAI gets stuff wrong, Grok gets stuff wildly off.
Yeah,
wildly.
What'll be interesting is when like if and when these agents can start doing their own analysis. So like even in the reports, like it was basically just servicing like what Masari had just said or what Blockworks had written about, right? So you still need someone creating the foundation for all this, and it's just bubbling it up.
Yeah.
Which means, hey, maybe we haven't lost our jobs just yet because someone still has to be writing this stuff. We'll see for how much longer that lasts. But folks, I think we went around the horn today, covered all the topics on my list. I think we can look to wrap it up. That'll be our show. I want to thanks to our listeners, as always, for tuning in. Thanks to our partners. Thanks to Mando for hosting the show with me. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Quick plug, Underexposed will be coming at you live in 1 hour at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go deep into the Portnoy saga. I'm going to get Peter and Deez's thoughts on that as well as Jeeves. So if you want more content, check that out. But until then, we'll see you tomorrow. Go make today a great day. Goodbye.